You want a war? You're gonna get one.
Now get the dogs, the drugs, to my generation, I'll take the fall. The saints, look off the nation, and it's a sex, the gods, the fakes, the fraud, they're messing with me. Come on, come on, come on, let's get it out. Move to the music, play that fucking music. Live through my music, yeah.
Hey yo, welcome back to Reliving the War and welcome to the 10th of January 2000. We've got Raw in St. Louis, Missouri and we've got Nitro taking place in Buffalo, New York. This is going to be the last Nitro Vince Russo writes for a few months. I'll cover what happened with Russo, Chris Benoit and others when I cover Sold Out later in the week, but think about this. Nitro's gone back to 2 hours, Vince Russo's no longer writing shows. You'd think things were looking up for WCW and we might be looking at a potential return to form for the company, but that's not exactly what happens. Sold Out 2000 will go live on YouTube this Sunday, but it's also up right now on Patreon if you want to see it early, along with next week's episode of Reliving the War. Loads to cover today, soldiers, so let's get started with Reliving the War episode 218. The Rock and most of the WWF roster are kicking off Raw tonight with a promo. On Nitro, we've got a triple threat tag team match. So, the WWF roster stands around the outside of the ring while Rock grabs a microphone. This was bound to happen sooner or later, but everyone's fed up with the McMahon-Hemsley era and they aren't happy with how Mick Foley's been treated. The guys and girls around the ring ask Rock to be their spokesman, and even though The Rock's unaccustomed to public speaking, yeah, The Rock agreed to speak for everyone. Rock wants Stephanie and Triple H to come out right now. Hunter wants DX to join him, but the boys are in no rush to accompany their leader. So Stephanie and Triple H walk out all alone, and the fans chant a mean word at Stephanie. It begins with S, and it rhymes with mutt, the word being slut. Rock tells Stephanie to know her role and shut her mouth, and he then says every superstar standing around the ring right now is prepared to leave the WWF if their demands aren't met. They'll join a new wrestling federation named the WRF, the World Rock Federation. Mick Foley's out in the parking lot right now, probably selling popcorn and eating popcorn. And if Hunter and Steph don't reinstate Foley right now as an active competitor on Raw, then all these folks are going to join the WRF, and that means I'll have another show to cover next week. After a short conversation with his wife, Triple H says Mick is reinstated.
That's going to be a good little piece of business.
And so Rock pushes his luck and he says there's going to be no more pink slip on a pole matches and there's going to be no more you're fired handicap matches. Stephanie says that's fair enough.
That's going to be a good little piece of business.
As for people getting randomly fired every week, that's got to stop too. Again, Triple H says that's fair enough. But then the sound of a car crash plays in the arena and Mick Foley shows up. He walks through the audience and he gets in the ring. He acknowledges the dozens and dozens of Mankind fans, and he thanks The Rock for sticking his neck out for him tonight. Mick has a demand of his own. He wants Triple H at the Royal Rumble. There's going to be some stipulations added at a later date, and Hunter again has no choice but to comply with yet another demand. Rock then announces that he's going to be in the Royal Rumble match itself in Madison Square Garden. The Great One's just made himself the favourite to win the whole thing. But Mick thinks there's a few more demands that could be made for Raw tonight to make things a little more fun. Mick always gets asked about who the toughest member of the New Age Outlaws is. I think he's lying because no one really cares, but tonight Mick wants to see Road Dogg take on Billy Gunn in a one-on-one match. And seeing as Triple H told X-Pac on SmackDown that the kid's just as good as the game inside the ring, Foley wants to see these two go at it too tonight on Raw. X-Pac seems to like this idea. Finally, The Rock wants D-Generation X to take on the Acolytes and the Rock and Sock Connection in the Raw main event. Hunter has no choice but to agree, so the power's been completely stripped from the McMahon-Hemsley era tonight, and the other members of DX rip into Hunter for folding so easily. Road Dogg says Hemsley should have let everyone walk, and it's because of Triple H that DX now has some serious problems tonight. But all Hunter can do is reiterate that he had no choice. We get a quick Thunder recap to open up Nitro. Basically, Kevin Nash powerbombed Terry Funk through the entrance stage and the NWO reigned supreme once again. The alliance between David Flair and the NWO was also short-lived, seeing as the NWO attacked young David when he tried to replace Arn Anderson as a special referee. Before all this happened, Terry Funk wrestled Bret Hart in a hardcore match and the Hitman took a lot of hard bumps. Bumps that a guy with a concussion really shouldn't take. And so tonight we'll be seeing Bret Hart in action for the very last time on Reliving the War. It's time to say goodbye to the excellence of execution. Terry Funk arrives to the arena with some familiar faces, Larry Zbyszko, Paul Orndorff and Arn Anderson. We'll come back to these guys a bit later on, but first we've got a triple threat tag match. The Revolution and the Filthy Animals are in the ring beating the hell out of each other. I was starting to wonder if the third team would ever show up, but when they did, I had to wake up my DJ and get him to play a song.
Now that your daddy's gone, you walk around here thinking you are someone. But David Flair, you could have had it all, but the unfortunate truth is you suck big balls.
Flair and Crowbar get in the ring to join in on the mayhem, and the tag team champions kicked ass for a solid 5 seconds. A BK bomb put David in his place while Crowbar took a powerbomb from Conan. Daphne screams at Rey Mysterio on the outside, and Rey's smart enough to back up, but it's a shame the boys in the ring aren't having as much success. Daphne passes the lead pipe and the crowbar. The champs are able to use these weapons to great effect, and while Kidman and Conan are busy with Flair and Crowbar, Malenko and Saturn decide to go after Rey Mysterio. The Revolution bring Mysterio to the entranceway while Saturn moves through the audience. Perry then appears above the entrance set and he puts Rey through a table with a big splash from way upstairs. Great stuff. David takes this opportunity to cover Perry and the tag team champions win the match. A decent enough opener here on Monday Nitro. Mike Tenay lets us know that later tonight Buff Bagwell and DDP are going to have 5 minutes in the ring. During those 5 minutes, Bagwell will have a chance to prove his innocence in regards to these rumours surrounding Kimberly. Definitely looking forward to that one. It sounds absolutely shit. We've got the Road Dogg versus Billy Gunn next on Raw. On Nitro, Oklahoma cuts a promo. Wonderful. Surprisingly, the Raw match has a clean finish. I would have thought DX would have found a way to get out of this little predicament they're in tonight, but Road Dogg and Billy went at it with no shenanigans. Billy gave a clean break in the corner, but when Road Dogg tried to return the favour, James got attacked from behind. From here, Billy stayed on offense with a knee drop, a deadly chinlock and a kitchen sink before the match went to the outside. And Billy pretty much dominated Road Dogg for the majority of the match. A dancey punch and a dancey knee brought the DOGG back into the match momentarily, but Badass answered with a jackhammer. Billy then went for a famouser, Roddy countered it with a slam, and Jesse James defeated Billy Gunn live on Raw. Road Dogg wanted to shake his partner's hand after the match, but Billy shoved Roddy away, so the problems continue within D-Generation X. The Rock and Mankind's plans working perfectly, and backstage, DX is close to imploding. Remember, these guys have to team up later on tonight in the main event. Speaking of Mankind, Mick's abducted the imposter Mankind and Foley wants the imposter to tell a few jokes. He wants Midian to make him laugh, seeing as the imposter was so funny last week on Raw. As Raw continues on, Foley continues to torment Midian. He screams in his face, he tries some Chinese water torture, he even made him watch Nitro for fuck's sake. Basically, he put the imposter through hell, but we'll come back to this a bit later on. On Nitro, the NWO wish Scotty Steiner a happy birthday. The boys have gotten Scotty a special present, seeing as he's now 21 years old. And it's a bunch of freaks, including April Hunter, Tylene Buck, Pamela Paulshock, and Shakira. Scotty makes the girls form an orderly queue as he takes 2 into his dressing room at a time, so it's gonna be a long night for the big bad booty daddy. Oklahoma then comes to the ring and he says he's tired of all these hoochies coming to WCW. He's tired of seeing women in pro wrestling because their real place is in the kitchen, barefoot and pregnant. This sounds a lot like a Jeff Jarrett promo from the WWF, doesn't it? Medusa, that, and I quote, silicone freak, needs to realise that her job's to bring her husband his slippers and beer, and if she can't realise that, then she's no damn good. Jesus Christ. Oklahoma wants to take the Cruiserweight title away from Medusa at Sold Out, and tonight he's issuing an open challenge to any female in the back for a good old fashioned slobber knocker live on Nitro. Asia answers the challenge. One shove puts Oklahoma on the mat, but then Asia makes the mistake of turning her back and she gets attacked. On the outside, Asia makes easy work of Ferrara, but Oklahoma ends up using his barbecue sauce to knock her out. And if this couldn't get any more ridiculous, Medusa walks down to the ring looking like this. Looks kinda like a midlife crisis to me. She's also absolutely useless because she gets in the ring, she gets smacked with a broom, and it didn't look painful at all. Oklahoma then steals the cruiserweight belt, and if you want to see what happens next, you gotta buy Sold Out on pay-per-view. I imagine sales went through the roof the moment this segment got wrapped up. Big Papa Pump's still busy with his two freaks, but he has to hit the brakes for a moment because Terry Funk's coming to the ring to address the NWO live on Nitro, while over on Raw, the Hardy Boys take on Steve Blackman and Kurt Angle. There's a clipboard up on Stephanie and Hunter's dressing room door where superstars can sign up for matches, and the Hardy Boys wanted to take on the unbeatable team of Kurt Angle and Steve Blackman. Blackman done his due diligence and he made sure this was definitely Kurt Angle he was teaming up with and not some robot monster disguised as an Olympic gold medalist. So we're all good this week, guys. Raw's completely free from those pesky robo-fucks. Back suplex and neckbreaker from Matt on Kurt. Jeff comes in for poetry in motion, and when Blackman gets involved, he ends up taking an acai moonsault. Jeff tries to get cute with Sensei Blackman, and Steve needs to make sure he's not dealing with a robot right now. So he cracks Jeff's head off the ring steps, and yeah, he's definitely human. Kurt tags in and Jeff pulls off a unique dropkick while Angle's on the apron. Matt and Steve then tag in and our match breaks down. Kurt and Jeff end up on the outside and Steve's able to grab his customized turbo karate stick, but Jeff dropkicks him from behind and Matt's able to pull off a twist of fate. Blackman totally let the Hardys win here because he has bigger fish to fry. There's no sense spending all your mana points on jabronis. We then see Edge signing up for a match followed by Chris Jericho and Chyna. Jericho wants to team up with Chyna to take on the Holly Cousins, and when he tries to take the IC belt away, Chyna says, "I don't think so, bozo." Jericho says it looks better on Chyna anyway, so she can have it. Right, this Nitro promo, my god. 20 minutes we've got here, ladies and gents, and I want to make something perfectly clear. Just because I'm going to criticize a Terry Funk promo, it doesn't mean that I dislike Terry Funk. As a matter of fact, Terry's been awesome longer than any other pro wrestler who's ever lived. Some of you, not all of you, but some of you seem to think that when I rip into something or if I make jokes about someone, it automatically means that I dislike them. That's just total bollocks, so I need to clear that up before laughing at this absolute shit show of a promo. The problem here is that Terry Funk and his band of old-timers, who Terry calls the Old Age Outlaws, took a staggering 20 minutes to book 2 matches. The NWO appeared and Terry forced Double J into a triple theatre match tonight against 3 mystery opponents, and Chris Benoit's going to be the referee. And he also booked Bret Hart versus Kevin Nash for the world title. Bret and Kev said they wouldn't fight each other. Funk said he had sent both guys home and they'd get suspended. Bret and Kev said, yeah, that's fine, we'll take the holiday and we'll happily sit at home. And this made Funk stop in his tracks and wonder what he was going to say next. I mean, what could he say? If Bret and Nash were happy to go home, then Funk really had no power. Terry then said that Bret would get stripped of the world title if he didn't compete. You would have thought that getting suspended would have automatically removed the belt from Bret anyway, but this makes the Hitman second guess his decision. Big Papa Pump tried to talk, but the whole promo got beeped from start to end. And Big Kev also promoted his upcoming Sold Out match with Funk. If Nash wins, then Big Sexy's gonna become WCW Commissioner. If Funk wins, the NWO must disband forever. The promo that opened up Raw was a long one too, but Rock, Mankind, Triple H and Stephanie got through so much stuff in their promo while ticking a lot of boxes for upcoming matches on TV and upcoming matches on pay-per-view. This Nitro promo just dragged on forever when it could have been wrapped up in about 5 minutes. At times you could see Arn Anderson feeding Terry his lines, which is fair enough, it's not something you can really complain about. But just in general, look at the NWO's opposition here. Arn Anderson, Larry Zbyszko and Paul Orndorff. It's not exactly Sting, Lex Luger and the Giant like back in 96 and 97, is it? When Zbyszko talked about tradition and how it reared its ugly head once again to battle the NWO, the crowd booed and they chanted boring. When Paul Orndorff talked about the power plant graduates that were sitting at the front row, nobody cared. After the promo wraps up, Arn Anderson goes outside to wait on someone arriving in a limousine. Whoever it is, this person's going to face Jeff Jarrett in tonight's final triple theatre match. And as for Bret Hart and Kevin Nash, well, they start mouthing off at each other and they end up wanting to have this main event match tonight, even though it all plays into Terry Funk's plan. Bret says he's got more respect for Kev than to ask him to lay down in the middle of the ring, and Nash says not to worry, he's going to beat Bret fair and square for the title tonight on Nitro. Jeff Jarrett stirs it up between Nash and Bret. He tells Kev that Bret should get kicked out of the NWO, while he tells Bret that Nash has a big ego and Kev's jealous that he doesn't have a title belt. So we'll have to wait until the main event to see how it all plays out. Val Venis takes on Edge next on Raw. On Nitro, Buff Bagwell tries to clear his name in a 5-minute promo with Diamond Dallas Page. Before the Raw match began, Val Venis announced that his sister just got engaged to Edge. Edge may have what it takes to win Venus' sister's hand in marriage, but he doesn't have what it takes to win the European Championship. My god. This was totally legit, by the way. Edge and Alana Morley were married for a short period of time. After Edge makes his entrance, the giant robot monster Worldwide Alliance symbol appears on the Titantron, so it's a good thing Steve Blackman went easy on the Hardy Boys. Our guy can leave the arena at 100% and finish these cyber chodes off once and for all. Hurricane Rana from Edge, Blue Thunderbomb from Val Venis. Edge counters a swinging neckbreaker into a DDT, and Edge fires up with a clothesline, a back body drop, and a missile dropkick. Edge tried to finish the match with a downward spiral, but Venis got a foot on the ropes, and the European champion won the match following a fisherman's suplex. After the bell, Edge told Venis that he may have been the best man tonight, but he won't be the best man at the wedding. That honour is going to Christian, and not sure what the point of this was really. Val's totally fine with Edge's decision, and he gives Edge and Christian a hug. So yeah, moving on. Over on Nitro, Buff and DDP make their way down to the ring, and a timer appears on the screen. Page wants to talk to Bagwell all alone, so he tells Mean Gene to hit the bricks. Dallas tells Buff to get a microphone. Bagwell says he's already got one. Page didn't see it in Buff's back pocket, I guess. And Page wants to know if Buff enjoyed what happened to him on Thunder. DDP attacked Buff earlier in the week, by the way, and Buff said, yeah, it wasn't great. But Bagwell then asks DDP, how's your wife? And the look on Dallas's face says it all. Bagwell says he's just friends with Kim. Apparently Buff's a great listener and the two have these nice long chats or something, I don't know. So Buff thinks Page might be a bit paranoid and maybe Page has a few shortcomings, know what I'm saying? Shortcomings, short, like he's a bit, he's got a small dick, okay? Page says Buff's a jack-off and a little man. He says Buff was hitting on Kimberly all night at some bar in Little Rock. He was filling her up with drinks while Page was sitting at home. So Buff tried to take advantage of Kimberly and he went behind DDP's back to try to get into Kim's stickies. Bagwell tells Page to put the shoe on the other foot. Imagine if it was DDP talking to one of the boys' wives in the back and the sexual tension was at an all-time high. Buff wants to know if DDP wouldn't do the same thing and Page says no, he wouldn't. And Buff says, well, there you go, Bagwell wouldn't do it either and DDP just has to believe him. The timer runs out while DDP wonders how Buff knows about his wife's birthmark. Apparently Buff was talking about this birthmark backstage to the boys and apparently it isn't visible when Kim's fully clothed. Buff says yeah, he's seen the birthmark but so have all the boys in the back, and that's when Buff gets jabbed in the face, and what a jab it was.
But so's all the boys in the back, dude!
Buff pulls a riot button out of his pocket, he attacks Page from behind while shouting I didn't do it, and these two are going to face each other this week at Sold Out, so maybe we'll get more answers at the pay-per-view. Old dirty dick Buff Bagwell, eh? Sniffing around another man's wife like a low-down, stinking, rotten hyena. No way you'd catch me sniffing around Kimberly Page like that. Absolutely no chance. No sir. Double J has his first triple theater match next on Nitro. On Raw, it's the Holly Cousins versus Jericho and Chyna. Jericho's had quite the change of heart since last week. He says together he and Chyna are unstoppable and the pair are going to destroy Bombastic Bob and Crash in this tag team match. But Chris also points out that he got a way better crowd reaction than Chyna even though he didn't wear the IC belt down to the ring. Chris begins with a flying forearm to Bob followed by a facebuster. Chris and Chyna work well together as they pull off a double backdrop, and Chyna takes care of Crash quite easily although Bob's able to get a blind tag. This leads to a heart attack from the Holly Cousins and Bob's able to punish Chyna in the corner. Crash comes in again but he misses an aerial attack. Chyna, however, can't make it to her corner and it looks like Jericho was in no rush to tag in anyway. Bastard Bob wins the match after a Falcon Arrow. Jericho grabs the IC title. So yeah, Chris was only concerned about getting his gold back and he didn't really care about winning this match. On Nitro, Terry Funk and the Old Age Outlaws come out after Jarrett makes his entrance. They're here to reveal who Jarrett's first opponent's going to be, and it's George the Animal Steele.
He's an animal!
An animal! An animal!
I know it's totally random and I'm going to keep my mouth shut because I'll get accused of being a George Steele hater, but I will say this. WCW had a tremendous roster already on payroll and many guys are underutilized. I'll leave it at that. This is a bunkhouse brawl. Chris Benoit's our referee and he's going to officiate every Triple Theatre match here tonight. And it begins with George throwing weapons into the ring while aiming at Double J. The Animal makes his way into the ring as Jeff heads out, and Double J takes a trash can shot followed by a chair shot as he tries to get back inside the ropes. Jarrett's had enough. He begins heading up the ramp as Benoit tells him to get back and fight. George, meanwhile, eats the turnbuckle pad as is tradition, and the Old Age Outlaws stop Double J from heading back through the curtain. George is way too busy ripping the turnbuckle pad apart and he doesn't notice Jeff getting back in the ring. Double J smacks the Animal with his guitar, but he walks into an Arn Anderson spinebuster immediately afterward. Chris Benoit then gives a fast count and George Steele beats the US champion live on Nitro. Jarrett was screwed, ladies and gents, and so were the next two ladies who left Big Papa Pump's dressing room. Scott's looking a bit worn out, but he's ready to take on the next pair. And yeah, this looks like a proper tag team lethal lottery tournament right here. Should have aired this instead of that other crap for the past 2 weeks. Terry Funk tells Arn Anderson to go get Jarrett's next opponent, and yes, it's another old timer who isn't on the full-time roster. X-Pac takes on Triple H next on Raw, while Stevie Ray has a few things to say about his brother on Nitro. Unlike Billy Gunn vs Road Dogg, the finish to this Raw match wasn't clean. Just like the earlier match, one competitor gave a clean break, that being X-Pac, while the other wasn't so gracious. Triple H even choked his teammate out in the corner, but Pac came right back with a spinning back kick and a spinning wheel kick. So we all thought Hunter was going to have his work cut out for him, and maybe, just maybe, X-Pac had a chance here tonight. The match went to the outside where Stephanie had to watch her husband get wrecked by Pac, but Triple H managed to drop his teammate on the commentary table and he tried to keep the pressure on with a ring step bump. Inside the ring, Pac takes the facebreaker knee smash before Hunter looks for a pedigree, but X-Pac delivers a low blow and this gets followed up with a spin kick. No sexy time for Stephanie tonight. Triple H takes a Bronco Buster. X-Pac has this one in the bag. He goes to the top rope and that no good Stephanie McMahon gets involved. This is enough for Triple H to win with a pedigree, and you can't imagine X-Pac being too happy about this. He looks pissed off as Hunter and Steph head back up the ramp, and the Outlaws try to comfort X-Pac backstage. Road Dogg wonders when Stephanie got involved in DX, and he wonders when Stephanie started calling the shots within the group. On Nitro, Stevie Ray rips in the Mean Gene and the commentary team before addressing his brother. Harlem Heat have been in WCW for a very long time, and recently Booker T's forgotten where he came from. When Stevie got injured, Booker found a little success. He won the TV title and this clearly went to Booker's head, but what Booker doesn't realise is that WCW only wanted Booker to go so far. The TV title was all he was ever going to get, but Booker's been blinded. Booker T sold out, so Stevie wants to fight his brother at Sold Out. Stevie says Booker turned his back on the neighbourhood. He likes to wear suits in an effort to show everyone he's not from the hood apparently. So Booker comes out along with Midnight and Book says he doesn't want to fight Stevie, but Stevie isn't backing down. He says Booker ran to this fruit booty named Midnight for backup when he had a brother all along who could look out for him. But while Booker remains adamant that he won't fight Stevie Ray, he says his brother's on his own from now on. Stevie Ray made his choice last week when he attacked Booker and Midnight, so from this point on, Harlem Heat are no more and Booker wants nothing to do with his brother. Ultimately, it was Stevie who made this choice and not Booker. Stevie pulls Booker back when he tries to walk away. Book gets slapped across the face, and this is all it takes for Booker to accept the match at Sold Out. It's a bit ridiculous. Booker says this shit won't be fixed at Sold Out, but he's gonna fight Stevie anyway. So there you go, another match penciled in for Sold Out, and this is probably the most interesting match we have on the card. Jeff Jarrett's next Triple Theatre match is up next on Nitro. On Raw, we've got Too Cool and Rikishi versus the Headbangers and Al Snow. The match here was kinda shit. Grandmaster Sexay was unable to tag out for most of the match, so that means Rikishi and Scotty hardly got any ring time. A power slam gave the Grandmaster the break he was looking for, and so Rikishi got tagged in and that was it all over. Rikishi cleaned house, Thrasher took the Banzai drop and the big man won after a Rikishi driver. I was just about to get worried about Al Snow after this loss, but the WWF tried to keep a bit of his heat by having him attack the Headbangers after the bout. Still, the fact he was put in the losing team in a throwaway match doesn't give us a lot of confidence. Looks like Al isn't moving up the cards anytime soon. Backstage, Mick Foley thinks about letting the imposter Mankind go. Mideon has some great fashion sense, so Foley decides to untie him. He then tells the imposter to stay put. He's not allowed to leave the room even though he's been freed. And Mick then finds Tori with the intention of setting Mideon up for a beating. Mick does what Tori's been accusing everyone else of doing as of late. He violates her. He says he admires her big, sweaty, heaving, voluptuous breasts, and he's compiled a list of about 17 things he'd like to do to those bad boys. He then smacks her ass before telling her where his room is, so Mankind hopes that Tori's going to send the big red machine down to dressing room number 3. Mick tells Tori to bring a friend because there's plenty of Mankind to go around. On Nitro, Terry Funk reveals Jarrett's next opponent, and it's Tito Santana. El Matador is on Monday Nitro. Terry Funk joins the commentary team where he says the NWO are a bunch of roid heads. They've got a fistful of hemorrhoids between their ears, and Funk asks Schiavone if he knows what he's talking about. Tony says, yes I do, but he didn't have a fucking clue. Jarrett makes fun of a few Buffalo Bills sitting at ringside. He pushes nose tackle Ted Washington and he also pushes Paul Orndorff. And as the match gets underway, Mike Tenay says this is a dungeon match, only it differs from the one scheduled that sold out. In this dungeon match, the ropes are going to stay around the ring, obviously, and also pinfalls and submissions count. So that means the match is going to end either in pinfall or submission. Way to go, Tenay. Santana pulled off a hip toss and a pretty sweet dropkick. He also delivered a running forearm that looked spot on, and if this happened in 2024, the crowd would be chanting, "You've still got it." Hold your applause though, folks, because check this out. Yeah, it's a bit of a struggle right there, isn't it? Benoit has to pull Jarrett away from Tito. Jeff shoves Chris, so Benoit punches Double J in the face. Jarrett then refocuses on Santana as Big Ted steps on the apron, and after a pathetic little push, Double J stumbles back into Paul Orndorff. Double J takes the pile driver, Chris Benoit delivers another fast count, so Jarrett's lost 2 matches tonight thanks to interference and bad officiating. Jarrett has one more match tonight, and this one would turn out to be a disaster. That match is coming up in just a moment. The Godfather and D'Lo take on the Dudleys next on Raw. On Nitro, Tank Abbott calls out Doug Dillinger. Just over 3 minutes were spared for this Raw match, and keep in mind we have another regular tag team match immediately following this one. That's a total of 6 tag matches on Raw tonight, whether it be 6-man tags or 2-on-2. And I was just about to go off about this, but then I remembered the WCW Lethal Lottery. I'll never complain about tag matches ever again. D'Lo and Godfather deliver a double back elbow, but D'Lo misses his leg drop. This allows the Dudleys to perform their double team headbutt, and Devon then took over with his suplex. In comes Bubba and D'Lo performs a sky high. This lets him tag in the Godfather, and that's it over. Godfather fires up with a couple of backdrops before Devon takes a whole train, but the Dudleys leave the ring. They try to steal the Godfather's creatures, and the match ends with a double countout. Clearly Bubba and Devon didn't want to pay up and they wanted a freebie, but Godfather was having none of it. On Thunder this past week, Doug Dillinger got knocked out by Tank Abbott. Doug totally deserved it for being the worst security man in the history of our great sport. And on Nitro, Tank calls Dillinger out for another fight. Before that though, he says he's going to kick Huckleberry Finn's ass at Sold Out in reference to Jerry Flynn. But I don't get it. Did he mean to say Huckleberry Flynn? And even if he did, was that supposed to be funny? Because I'm not fucking laughing. Anyway, Abbott keeps getting fined by Double D Doug Dillinger, so Doug can come on out and have a free shot. He can throw a punch and he can try to knock Tank out. So Dillinger comes out and he tries to defuse the situation. Doug doesn't want no smoke, but Tank keeps calling him a duck while making quack noises, which is funnier than it has any right to be. So Doug gets all annoyed, he takes a swing and he fails in his mission to knock Tank out. If this is the best your head of security can do, then I'm sorry, we need new staff at WCW. Abbott attacks the other security guards and he ends up getting handcuffed. This is totally uncalled for, seeing as Dillinger swung first, but what's new, eh? Huckleberry Flynn comes out to get in a free shot, Tank gets kicked in the head. Abbott sits up with a smile on his face, and gotta say, I couldn't care less about this upcoming match at Sold Out. It's gonna suck the big one, guys, trust me. Next we've got Test and the Big Show taking on the Bossman and Albert on Raw. On Nitro, it's a steel cage match as Double J faces another legend in the Triple Theatre series. This Raw tag team match didn't even last a minute, that's what she said. Bossman and Albert couldn't get it together and their opponents made easy work of these guys. Seriously, the Bossman deserved better. He ended up hitting Albert accidentally with his nightstick, and this allowed Test to hit Albert with his big elbow drop. Not sure if it was because of the camera angle here, but the elbow didn't look as good as what it usually does. Still, it's a win for Test, so at least he didn't get buried tonight. Instead, he's the one doing the burying. Albert and Test have words in the middle of the ring. Bossman turns into D-Lo for a moment. Albert shoves his partner, but then the Big Show comes in to deliver a chokeslam, a move that again didn't look all that good. Big Show's in the Royal Rumble, folks, and as always, I will be covering the show when the time comes. The Rumble's one of my favourite pay-per-views to cover, and I am looking forward to it this year. On Nitro, Benoit's been knocked out backstage. We assume Double J got him, so we have no official for this upcoming cage match. We then see Arn Anderson waiting for Jarrett's opponent to appear, and oh dear, it's Superfly Jimmy Snuka. Okay, I'll keep it civil, but I sure hope no one gets murdered. Alright, so Jarrett once again rips into the Buffalo Bills when he steps inside the cage. He confirms that it was he who took Benoit out. He tells Snuka to get his old washed up wrinkly ass out for a fight, and there he is, whoopity-doo. Jarrett wrecks Snuka at the opening bell. Superfly can't get started at all. Chris Benoit hobbles out to join his dear friend Jimmy, but Jarrett makes double sure that he's not locked inside this cold, dark and dangerous cage with these two guys, just in case, you can't be too careful. Unfortunately, the plan doesn't work and Double J gets beaten up by Chris moments later, though Jarrett's able to leave the cage when Benoit tries to climb up for the headbutt. Double J grabs his guitar, but when he gets back in the ring, he gets attacked by Zbyszko and Orndorff, and Double J gets put in position for Snuka and Benoit to jump off the cage. The splash from Snuka gave Jarrett a legitimate concussion. Jeff said it was one of the worst he's ever suffered in his entire career, and immediately afterwards he also took a diving headbutt from Chris Benoit, although to be fair, I'm sure the headbutt hurt Chris way more than it hurt Jeff. Snuka wins, Jarrett loses 3 matches on Nitro, and the concussion Jarrett suffers here results in Jeff not competing at Sold Out, but I'll talk about that a bit more in the pay-per-view video. It's time for Bret Hart's final WCW match and Bret's final match ever in Reliving the War. The jam jar is empty, guys. It was good while it lasted. It's Bret Hart vs Kevin Nash in the Nitro main event, while DX take on the Rock and Sock Connection and the Acolytes on Raw. DX do not come out together when their music plays. Instead, their entrances are staggered and the boys still look annoyed at their heroic leader Triple H. Hunter also notices a fan giving him a little shit in the front row. The champ locks eyes on the guy, and he then proceeds to spit his water all over the fan, which I thought was pretty funny. I'm sorry, but I'm easily amused. Hunter wants to shake hands with his comrades, but the lads are having none of it. DX are falling apart, and this means they've been weakened pretty badly for this main event match. Billy Gunn and Rock start us off. This didn't go down well the last time it happened. Rock lays the smackdown on Billy's Rudy Poo Candy Badass, but Billy fires back with a neckbreaker. Billy takes a Samoan drop followed by a rock bottom. X-Pac runs in to break the cover. We move on to Bradshaw and Road Dogg in the ring, and their initial exchange ends with the DOGG taking a boot to the face. We then get Farouk and X-Pac. X-Pac takes his opponent's head off with a spinning back kick, but Farouk replies with a backbreaker. Pac tags out after reversing a Dominator. It's Triple H and Mankind in the ring. Mick lights the champion up with a ton of right hands in the corner as the crowd goes nuts, and Hunter then takes the running knee strike before answering with a facebreaker knee smash. Hunter needs to tag out. He crawls to his corner and oh no, well, this is going to be a problem. DX head back up the ramp and the Acolytes and Rock soon follow, so Hunter's left to deal with Mankind all alone, and the game's in a lot of trouble. Everyone's gone. The only person left in Hunter's corner is Stephanie. The champ takes the double arm DDT from Mankind before Mick produces Mr. Socko, but then Stephanie tries to grab Foley from the outside and Mankind's just about to give Steph the mandible claw. Hunter wakes up, he saves Stephanie just in the nick of time, and Triple H sees red when he sees that Stephanie's been hurt. He brings Mick to the commentary table where Foley gets smacked with the ring bell, and Foley's been busted open pretty badly. This gets followed up with a pedigree through the announce table that looked great, and with blood running down his face and down his shirt, Mankind gets back in the ring to take a pedigree. Triple H wins via pinfall, and he didn't need DX, he only needed to see his wife getting put in danger. After the bell, Triple H continues his attack, but Mick fights back. The two end up on the outside where Foley launches the ring steps right into Triple H's head. He then leans the top of the commentary table beside the apron and Hunter goes through it. And look, that's a Cactus Jack bang bang right there. Triple H won the match, but Mankind looks completely unhinged. Hunter looks very concerned because he may have just brought out a version of Mick Foley he knows all too well. So, NWO teammates headline Nitro this week with Bret Hart's world title up for grabs. Bret's got good matches out of Nash in the past, but given the circumstances, from Bret's current condition to this just being WCW, I can't see this one being all that great. The Old Age Outlaws have tied Scott Steiner up in his dressing room and they have washed his dirty mouth out with some soap. Schiavone announces that Jarrett's got a concussion, so there's going to be no NWO interference here no matter what happens. Nash delivers knee strikes in the corner and Bret gets choked out. Hart gives as good as he gets though as he throws a ton of shots at Nash in the opposite corner. A headbutt puts Big Sexy down, but it hurts Bret just as much as it hurts Kev. But a few clubbing blows from the challenger leads to Bret falling out of the ring. Nash stays on Bret on the outside, but back inside the ropes, Bret goes for the left leg. You knew it was going to happen and it harkens right back to Survivor Series 95. And for this being Bret's last match, he's definitely moving around quite well. It's not until you look at his facial expressions that you notice that something isn't quite right. Bret gets put in the corner, so it's time for a few more back elbows. Bret then takes a leapfrog teabag, though Nash can't get a good run up. The hitman goes straight back to the leg before performing a Russian leg sweep. Nash replies with a low blow. Bret then takes snake eyes, and the champ looks like he's in trouble. But Bret repays the favour with a low blow to Kev before going to the second rope. Bret misses his elbow drop. He and Nash take their time getting back to their feet. A right hand puts Bret on the mat, and Nash follows up with a sidewalk slam. The match ends with Nash grabbing a steel chair. He puts it in the ring just before Arn Anderson shows up with a steel pipe. Nash gets taken out. Double A then turns his attention to Bret, but the hitman doesn't notice Big Sid showing up and the big man kicks the chair into Bret's face. A very delayed reaction from Bret here. Nitro ends with the cage being lowered as Sid takes Bret out with a chokeslam and a powerbomb. Sid then covers Bret, the enforcer counts to 3, so Sid was looking good just before these two were scheduled to face each other. It sold out. Before Nitro fades to black, Terry Funk shows up with a branding iron and he sticks that sucker right into Nash's stomach. This was cool for sure, and we can only hope we can see more of this stuff in their pay-per-view match. I didn't think much of either show this week if I'm honest, but if I had to pick one, I'd give it to Raw. I wanted to like Nitro because the format was much better this week and it all flowed together quite well. There wasn't a million backstage promos as usual, but the matches we got were pretty terrible, and the 20-minute Terry Funk and NWO promo dragged the show down big time. Raw had way too many tag team matches, with most being way too short, but I enjoyed the D-Generation X story this week and it does make you wonder what's going to happen next. Raw's got 120 points, Nitro's got 77, and we've got 21 ties. In the TV ratings, Raw dominated with a 6.8, while Nitro also went up to a 3.5. Sold Out 2000 is our next pay-per-view, and remember folks, the card is most definitely subject to change. The original Jeff Jarrett vs Chris Benoit Triple Theatre match doesn't happen, the world title match gets totally changed, and Vince Russo has also decided to go home. Matches such as Terry Funk vs Kevin Nash, Booker T vs Stevie Ray, and DDP vs Bagwell still take place, and while it is a shame that WCW's been thrown into complete chaos once again, it's still kinda interesting to see how they dealt with these pretty big problems they're going through. Join me on Sunday for Sold Out, or jump over to Patreon to watch it now along with next week's Reliving the War. Thank you very much for watching guys, and please take care.
By the way, I want to say hi to my one little fan out there. Hello, Smokey, my cat. Shut up. He's an animal. An animal. An animal. I don't think he's got the jam.
Who are you to doubt El Dandy? Because this guy's a serious professional.
But I am the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. And I'm back.
Now get the